From Grammy wins to platinum plaques, Chris Brown has cemented his name as one of the most iconic entertainers of our time. With over 100 million records sold worldwide, he's not just a hit maker, he's a global phenomenon. But it's not just about the music. Step into Breezy's world of unfiltered luxury. From his $4.3 million mansion, custom Lamborghinis, Rolls-Royces, and Ferraris, to soaring in private jets and partying on mega yachts. This isn't just success, this is living legendary. But behind the glitz and glam lies a storm of legal battles and controversies that have shaken his image. And we're diving into it all. Buckle up, this is going to be a whirlwind of a video. Before we dive in, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a taste of celebrity luxury. And hey, if you're aiming to shine like Breezy, let your brand speak luxury. Swarm Technologies builds sleek websites and custom software that turn heads. Hit the link in the description and level up. Let's dive into it. Chris Brown was born on May 5th, 1989, in Tappahannock, Virginia, a place with more trees than traffic lights, where dreams felt distant and survival came first. His parents split when he was just 6, but that was only the beginning. What followed wasn't childhood, it was survival. His mother's new partner brought terror into their home. Chris didn't just witness violence, he lived inside it. Night after night, he'd hear his mom being beaten behind closed doors. But deep inside, something fierce was burning. Music wasn't just entertainment. It was his armor, his therapy, his reason to keep breathing. He'd imitate Michael Jackson, sing along to old soul records, and mimic dance moves with astonishing precision. At age 11, he took the stage at a summer camp talent show and belted out Sisqó's Thong Song. The camp leaders laughed until the crowd erupted. That was the first time Chris felt it. The roar of the crowd, the rush of being seen. "I think I can do this," he said. And he did more than just do it. With his mother as his guide, he dropped out of school, moved to New York, and chased the only shot he had. It paid off. In 2005, Chris Brown, just 16 years old, dropped his self-titled debut album. It wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural explosion. His first single, Run It, shot straight to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making him the first male artist to do so since Montel Jordan in 1995. He was no longer the scared kid in the hallway. He was a rising king. 2 decades later, Chris Brown isn't just a household name. He's a global empire. With over 140 million records sold, multiple chart toppers, and sold-out tours around the world, Brown has built a fortune now estimated at $50 million. He owns his own record label, a clothing line, and holds more gold and multi-platinum singles than any other male artist in history. And if you're building something too, a business, a brand, or a legacy, you don't have to do it alone. Just like Chris turned his vision into value, you can build a digital presence around your idea. We create custom websites and software that help entrepreneurs, artists, and dreamers scale their vision into real success. Click the link in the description to start building your digital empire today. What transforms a teenager pumping gas in a sleepy Virginia town into one of R&B's most electrifying and controversial forces? For Chris Brown, that answer arrived not with a grand performance or polished demo, but in a moment of serendipity at his father's workplace. He was 13 when a local production team, Hit Mission Records, stopped by the gas station. Something about him stood out. Maybe it was the way he carried himself, or the glimmer in his eyes when music played on the radio. They asked him to sing, and when he did, it was like the room shifted. Destiny had cracked the door open. From that moment, Chris was no longer just a small-town kid. He was a diamond in the rough, and the industry was starting to take notice. Under Hit Mission's guidance, he crafted early demos under the name Sizzle, channeling every ounce of the pain, swagger, and soul he carried into his voice. That demo eventually landed in the hands of Tina Davis, a sharp-eared executive at Def Jam Recordings. The moment she heard him, she knew. This kid wasn't just talented, he was special. She arranged a meeting with the legendary L.A. Reid, who offered him a record deal on the spot. But Brown, showing maturity beyond his years, turned it down. Reid hadn't even spoken to his mother. If Chris was going to sign, it had to be as a family. That decision wasn't just about business. It was a glimpse into his deep loyalty and self-worth. Even in rooms where stars were born or broken, Chris kept moving. When Davis was let go during a corporate reshuffling, she refused to let his dream die. She became his manager and introduced him to the biggest labels in the country. Jive Records, home to titans like Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake, made the strongest impression. They didn't just see Chris as another R&B act. They saw crossover potential, a young king who could dance like MJ and sing with raw emotion. Ironically, Chris originally wanted to both rap and sing, but Jive steered him toward focusing purely on vocals. Rapping and singing wasn't acceptable yet, they told him. He listened. For now, by early 2005, Chris Brown was 16 and recording his debut album. He worked at a blistering pace, laying down over 50 tracks in just a few months and co-writing nearly half of them. These weren't just manufactured pop songs. They were reflections of his real teenage life. Crushes, heartbreak, rebellion, swagger. He lived every lyric. I write about the things that 16-year-olds go through every day, he explained. The result was an album that pulsed with youth, energy, and hunger. Then came the single that changed everything. When Run It dropped, it wasn't just a hit. It was a cultural reset. Chris became the first male artist since Montel Jordan in 1995 to top the Billboard Hot 100 with a debut single. Suddenly, the kid from Tappahannock wasn't just chasing stardom. He was it. The single ruled the charts for 5 weeks. Follow-ups like Yo, Excuse Me Miss, Gimme That, and Say Goodbye solidified him as more than a one-hit wonder. He was a genuine sensation. His debut album landed at number 2 on the Billboard 200, selling over 3 million copies in the US and doubling that worldwide. Critics praised the project as a fresh, polished take on commercial R&B. And Brown wasn't just singing. He was dancing, performing, commanding stages like he'd been doing it forever. On his 2006 Up Close and Personal tour, he donated $10,000 of ticket proceeds to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. He wasn't just basking in the spotlight, he was giving back. But instead of slowing down, he doubled down. In January 2007, he took a detour into acting with Stomp the Yard, starring alongside Neo and Megan Good. The role showed another side of him, Chris Brown, the entertainer, not just the singer. But behind the scenes, he was hard at work on album number 2. When Exclusive dropped in November 2007, the stakes were high. The lead single Wall to Wall fizzled. But then came Kiss Kiss featuring T-Pain, a playful, energetic track that soared to number 1. It was followed by With You, a Stargate-produced ballad that became a global phenomenon and one of his most beloved tracks. The album proved he wasn't just riding a wave, he was the wave. 2008 was the year everything exploded. His duet with Jordan Sparks, No Air, dominated airwaves. A jingle he wrote for Wrigley's Double Mint Gum morphed into Forever, a dance pop anthem that reached number 2 on charts. Billboard named him Artist of the Year, with 3 songs ranking among the 10 best-selling singles of 2008. He was no longer just a promising young artist. He was a certified global star. But fame is fragile. In early 2009, Chris began work on Graffiti, an album he hoped would push boundaries. He cited Prince, Michael Jackson, and Stevie Wonder as influences, aiming to create something bold, genre-defying. Then everything shattered. In February 2009, the world woke up to headlines that stunned fans. Chris Brown had assaulted his girlfriend, pop superstar Rihanna, the night before the Grammy Awards. The details were graphic, the images unforgettable. The backlash was immediate and unforgiving. Endorsements vanished. Radio stations stopped playing his songs. Once seen as a golden boy, he became a cultural pariah overnight. I went from being on top of the world to being public enemy number 1. He later confessed in his documentary, Welcome to My Life. But he didn't run from it. When Graffiti was released later that year, it reflected the storm he was weathering. It was his most personal work yet, emotionally raw, sonically experimental. He directed the visuals, wrote nearly every track, and poured his guilt, pain, and confusion into the music. The album underperformed commercially and was met with critical skepticism. Still, it earned 2 Grammy nominations, a sign that while the world was angry, it wasn't done listening. Then came one of the most human moments of his career. At the 2010 BET Awards, Brown took the stage for a Michael Jackson tribute. As he began Man in the Mirror, his voice cracked. He broke down mid-performance, sobbing uncontrollably. Some saw it as performative. Others saw a young man, still barely 21, cracking under the weight of his choices and the world's judgment. Whatever the truth, it was real. It was a moment of reckoning, a sign that maybe, just maybe, redemption was still possible. His rise wasn't a straight line, it was a storm, a whirlwind of talent, triumph, and self-destruction. And as the world debated whether to cancel him or crown him, one thing remained certain. The boy who once sang to strangers at a gas station had become one of music's most unforgettable figures. But could he ever truly recover? Could he climb back from the fall? Not just commercially, but spiritually. That answer would begin to unfold with his next project, a bold return to form, and perhaps the first step toward redemption. As the screaming fans faded into the distance, a more complicated, raw, and deeply human story emerged behind the scenes. Long before fatherhood softened him, before courtrooms and tabloid headlines, his personal life was already a whirlwind. In the late 2000s, his relationship with fellow pop icon Rihanna was the crown jewel of celebrity gossip, until it turned tragic. The 2009 domestic violence incident not only fractured their love, but cracked open a chapter of public scrutiny that would trail him for years. What the world saw was scandal. What Brown felt was isolation. Still, in the years that followed, there were moments of reconciliation. In 2012, the two shocked the world by collaborating again, trading verses and glances on remix tracks like Birthday Cake. Rihanna defended him publicly, insisting he wasn't the monster the world imagined, but someone she still loved. But love, especially under pressure, isn't always enough. By mid-2013, they had parted ways for good, and Brown found himself in another complicated romance, this time with model Karrueche Tran. That relationship, too, would flare up and collapse repeatedly, especially after Tran discovered that Brown had fathered a daughter with another woman. Today, he is the father of 3, Royalty, Iko, and Lovely. They come from different mothers, but share one thing in common: a father who's fiercely protective and deeply involved in their lives. Behind the headlines, he's spoken often of his upbringing in a religious home where church clothes outnumbered school outfits. He still leans on faith, praying not for success, but for peace, clarity, and understanding. Yet, even with spiritual grounding, Brown's demons have loomed large. Diagnosed with bipolar II disorder and PTSD during a court-mandated rehab stint in 2013, the roots of his struggles ran deep, fueled by trauma, insomnia, and addiction. The question now isn't whether Chris Brown can conquer the charts again. He's proven that time and time over. The real question is whether he can conquer himself. And as he steps into the next chapter, the world watches. Will the man behind the music finally find peace? But for Chris Brown, fame was never the finish line. It was just the starting block. Beneath the headlines and behind the stages, a deeper ambition simmered. Could he turn his turbulent legacy into a thriving empire? In 2007, while still riding the high of his early stardom, he launched CBE, Chris Brown Entertainment, under Interscope. At first, it signed other artists like Kevin McCall and Seven Streeter, but over time, it became a vessel to push his own vision. Then came Mechanical Dummy, a slick lifestyle hub he curated to spotlight trends in music, tech, fashion, and street culture, long before influencers made it cool. He quietly bought 14 Burger King franchises, flipped them years later, and turned his attention to art, partnering with Ron English on designer toys and with Sprayground on limited edition backpacks. He created the Symphonic Love Foundation, using his resources to support kids through art, health, and education programs. By the 2020s, he entered the NFT space with the Oracles and the Breezy Verse, even fusing them with physical streetwear. From Breezy's Cosmic Crunch cereal to a disposable vape line and a cannabis brand called Bussin, he blurred the line between pop star and brand mogul. And when electric car startup Faraday Future tapped him as co-creation officer, it was clear he wasn't just following trends. He was trying to rewrite the rules. He didn't stop at music. He built brands, owned labels, created empires. What about you? Your business deserves more than a logo. It deserves a legacy. Let us design the platform it needs to thrive. But for every chart-topping hit and entrepreneurial milestone, there's been another side to Chris Brown's story, one that can't be ignored. Because fame doesn't just magnify talent, it magnifies everything, especially the moments you wish the world would forget. In February 2009, just one night before the Grammys, Chris Brown's image was shattered after he assaulted his ex-girlfriend, Rihanna. Hours later, he turned himself in. By June, he pleaded guilty to felony assault. His sentence included 5 years of probation, community labor, a year of domestic violence counseling, and a restraining order that kept him 50 yards from Rihanna, later reduced so they could attend award shows. The case formally closed in 2015, but the damage to both their reputations had already been done. And it wouldn't be the last time he found himself facing the law. In the years that followed, legal troubles shadowed his career like an unwelcome ghost. There was the infamous nightclub brawl with Drake's crew in 2012. Glass flew, punches landed, and NBA star Tony Parker ended up with a shard in his eye. Then in 2013, an argument over a recording studio parking spot led to an altercation with singer Frank Ocean. Police called it battery. Ocean didn't press charges. That same year, his probation was revoked over an alleged hit and run. Though the charges were dropped, he'd still end up with 1,000 more hours of community service. But things only escalated. Later that year, in Washington, D.C., Brown was arrested again, this time for allegedly breaking a man's nose after refusing to take a photo. He was jailed, shackled in court, and sent to rehab. Yet even rehab wouldn't hold him. After being kicked out in 2014, he was sent directly to jail. The sentence was 365 days, but with time served in good behavior, he was out in less than 3 months. Still, every headline pushed his public image further from the fresh-faced teen who once danced his way into America's hearts. Then came the lawsuits. In 2016, Brown's former manager Mike G sued him for assault, claiming the singer locked him in a room and beat him without warning. Brown denied it, accusing the manager of theft. Years later, the matter was quietly settled out of court. His relationship with model and actress Karrueche Tran also took a dark turn. After their breakup, she obtained a 5-year restraining order, presenting threatening voicemails and aggressive texts from Brown in court. Messages that painted a picture of obsession, control, and unresolved pain. And the list didn't end there. In 2016, he was arrested again after a woman accused him of threatening her with a gun inside his home. A full SWAT team and media circus descended on the scene. Brown took to Instagram mid-standoff, venting in real time. No weapon was found. Charges were dropped. Later, he sued the woman for defamation and won. Then in 2022, a woman sued Brown for $20 million, accusing him of rape aboard a Miami yacht in 2020. He responded with receipts, explicit text messages, and voicemails showing the woman pursuing him afterward. The court dismissed the case after her legal team withdrew. Brown planned to countersue. From copyright battles to criminal accusations, the legal whirlwind around Chris Brown hasn't just been persistent, it's been defining. And as he continues to drop music, sell out shows, and build his brand, one can't help but wonder how much of the world has really forgiven Chris Brown, and how much of it is just pretending to forget. Even when he's not making headlines, he's living like a man who never left center stage. Step inside his world, and you'll find that luxury isn't just an occasional indulgence. It's woven into his every breath. From the moment he steps out of bed in his $4.6 million Tarzana mansion, surrounded by 8,200 square feet of architectural beauty, you can tell this isn't the life of an average artist. It's the empire of a man who turned chaos into legacy. And then there are the cars. Not just a garage, but a showroom of power and style. His Bugatti Veyron hums with a quiet threat, 1,200 horsepower ready to explode at a whisper. The Lamborghini Aventador waits like a beast in a cage, with its 6.5-liter V12 snarling beneath the hood. The Rezvani Beast and Tank stand by like something out of a superhero film, one for the thrill, the other for war. Porsche, Bentley, Rolls-Royce. Each name is more than a brand. It's a statement. These aren't just vehicles. They're characters in the story of a man who refuses to be average. But Chris Brown's empire doesn't end on the ground. When he needs to cross time zones or escape the noise, he doesn't book a flight. He takes the skies in his private jet, a Gulfstream that whispers luxury in every detail, allowing him to live above the world, untouched by the chaos below. It's not about escaping the public. It's about controlling the narrative. Still, nothing showcases his flair for the extraordinary quite like the eyes he wears. His wrists shimmer with timepieces most collectors would only dream of, Audemars Piguet's bold rose gold silhouette, Richard Mille's mechanical masterpieces, and Rolex's timeless elegance. Each watch tells a story, not of time, but of triumph. And around his neck, diamond-encrusted chains, each link a reminder of the price he paid and the throne he earned. Rings, pendants, bracelets, crafted from gold, platinum, and stone, customized with a level of detail that borders on obsession. These aren't just accessories. They're armor. Symbols of a man who's been through fire and came out not just shining, but glowing. Every possession, every detail, from the custom leather in his cars to the stones in his watches, tells the story of a man who doesn't just make music, but lives in rhythm. A man who was nearly buried by controversy and still rose to become an icon of resilience and reinvention. But here's the question that lingers in every whispered mention of his name. With all this wealth, with all this power, what is Chris Brown really chasing? Is it redemption, peace, or something even deeper? That's where we go next. Because behind the jewelry, the jets, and the Veyrons, there's another story Chris doesn't always let the world see. And it might just be the most important one of all. From unstoppable chart success to a life draped in designer and horsepower, Chris Brown continues to rewrite what it means to be a modern superstar. Love him or hate him, you can't ignore the impact or the empire. His journey is as complex as it is captivating, filled with highs, lows, and a lifestyle most only dream of. Talent, controversy, luxury. That's the Chris Brown story, and it's far from over. If you enjoyed this ride through fame and fortune, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next deep dive into the world of celebrity royalty. And remember, whether you're a brand, an artist, or a visionary, click the link in the description for custom websites and software solutions that bring your ideas to life. Thanks for watching. Stay legendary.